It's a nightmare today's guest says she will never forget. The night she killed her boyfriend. That night was so vicious and so cruel that it forever changed 2 lives. Today's True Crime, why Misty Harris believes killing her boyfriend saved her life, and why police say the circumstances of that night were some of the rarest they have ever seen.
It's been 10 years since all this happened, and I remember it like yesterday. My marriage was in shambles, and I was feeling insecure and lonely. So I started dating this guy I met at work, Michael. At first, he treated me well and made me feel better about myself, and then things started to turn abusive, really abusive. First it was screaming, then it went to hitting. When I was afraid for myself and my children, it's like he became a different person. The night it happened, we were home alone, and I got done cooking a dinner, and he got triggered over something, and it just escalated, and he got really violent. At one point, I ran out of the house. I got away from him. I was trying to get to the neighbor's yard, and he ripped me back in and ripped off all my clothes. He dragged me back in by my hair, and that's when I made it to the bathroom. He's banging and kicking on the door repeatedly. He broke the door, it broke right in half. And then he charged in. We are on the bathroom floor, and he is grabbing me, was screaming at the top of his lungs. And I knew I wasn't gonna survive if I wasn't gonna do something. He's facing upward on his back, and I seen a hairdryer, and that's the only thing I could think of to save my life. So I wrapped it around him and just kept on pulling, and I pulled as hard as I could pull, and I just stood up and pulled until I couldn't pull anymore. Killing my boyfriend saved my life.
Misty joins me now. You okay?
Yeah.
Can we go back to that night?
Mm-hmm.
You've been living with your boyfriend, and there had been stuff going on in the home even before that evening.
Right.
Can you describe it?
It's been 10 years ago, so I still remember it like yesterday, like I said. I was working with him. He was a rental. He was renting one of our houses, so I felt comfortable with him. One thing led to another. We started dating, and he got really abusive. He started hitting me, and I was trying to get away from him, but I didn't know how. And I didn't know he was on drugs, but he was like really strong. And he would rip the cupboards off and hit me with the cupboards and TVs. I would wake up periodically because it went on for over an hour. And then it's when he started laughing because I was peeing myself, because it was hurting. And I just kept on begging God or my father to come and help me. I wanted to live, and I knew if I didn't do what I did, I wouldn't have lived.
So in the bathroom, he's broken through the door. You see the cable of the hairdryer, and you put that around his neck. Then what happened?
Well, he was facing up. I just kept on pulling, and he was trying to get the cord off, and he was tough and really strong. And I just know that there was an air freshener can, and I just remember hitting him with that and then pulling up. And then I seen him jump, so I thought, he's still alive, but he's at least knocked out in my eyes. And I jumped over him, and then all the blood was everywhere. I was slipping and sliding, and I just ran to the front yard and didn't look back because I thought he was coming after me.
What gave you the emotional strength, but even more the physical strength, to be able to take a cord and hold it for that long? I mean, wasn't he was pounding at you?
No, he was like trying to get the cord off. So I believe that God or my angel, my dad, was there in that bathroom with me, because it happened so fast that I got in the truck with the kids, and they, helped me, but they covered me.
I'm sorry. So you run outside. Before your father passed how long ago?
When I was 18.
When you were 18. And does he come to you sometimes? Has he been a source of strength for you?
Yes, he has. I talk to him all the time. But now I believe in it. I really do, because I don't know where I would get the strength. He was so tough.
What's your dad's name?
William.
William. So your strength allows you to at least escape from your boyfriend. You run out into the front yard.
I run out into the front yard. I'm naked and bleeding.
And
Everywhere.
someone stopped driving by.
I came across the car and she couldn't stop because she had children, but a truck stopped with 3 17-year-old boys and they saved me. And they took me to the hospital and I was in there for a couple hours with surgery because I cut my hand. And they had to give me blood and stuff, and then they took me to jail.
They took you to jail?
All badly beaten, hours after. They misjudged me. You know, they just threw me in. They said that they were going to charge me with murder. And all I did was fight for my life, and I couldn't even open my eye. I didn't understand it. I thought I was going to prison forever. 4 days I was in there.
So if I can just get everyone on the
Okay.
same place here. So you go to the emergency room with bad injuries. They're taking care of you. I want to point out that her boyfriend was on medications. The toxicology report showed that he had a combination of drugs. One was a Valium-like drug. One was an amphetamine. So, you know, this...
And I didn't know he was on drugs. But it tells me that's why he was so strong. He was on meth.
He was on meth also?
That's what the lady told me.
That was the
But the
amphetamine.
detective wanted to charge me. They left it open for a whole year.
When we come back, a twist in Misty's case. Did she get charged with murder? Stay with us. We're back with a woman who says she killed her boyfriend to save her own life. After a prolonged and savage attack, Misty Harris strangled her boyfriend to death with a hairdryer cord. So you're sitting in jail, which still stuns me to hear, being taken right from the emergency room.
Right, hours after it happened.
What were you thinking as you sat in that
I
seat?
thought I was going to prison. I knew someone that killed their boyfriend and they went to prison. So I thought I was going to prison, especially because the detective said he was charging me for murder.
When did he tell you that?
When he interrogated me.
Were the questions they were asking like the ones I'm asking you today?
Yeah, they wanted to know how I did it. And I just explained to him, and then he wanted me to demonstrate it, and I couldn't do that. It was too much for me. I heard that he wanted a name for himself.
The detective.
Yes. Yep. But they judged me.
Were you angry or scared when you found that out?
Angry because they judged me. And I was beaten. I had to fight. If I wouldn't have done it, I wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't.
So for years, I felt like I was a murderer because that's the way that made me feel. My ex-husband made the cops already had because of fighting in battles for custody with my ex-husband, it made it where the cops felt like I was in the wrong. So they kept it open for a year. People all believed that I was a murderer in my small town. And they still talk about me like that, still today.
What do you want to tell them?
That they know me, that I'm a good person, and I believe in God, and I didn't want to take someone's life. That's what I want to tell them.
If your dad was here, what would he tell you?
To be strong and don't let the words hurt me, but they do. I end up gaining 80 pounds from all of it, but I lost my weight and got onto a health kick. I was drinking because everybody was calling me a murderer. So I was just drinking and taking medication that the doctor told me to take. And it really screwed me up in the head because it was all different medicine.
You've been through a lot. I want everyone who's watching right now to understand that what you're saying is true. So first off, after spending a few days in jail, police did not charge Misty.
No.
They felt, after looking at the evidence, that your story was a truthful one. It was determined the killing, I'll be clear, the killing was not murder or involuntary manslaughter. It was what is called justifiable homicide. In lay terms, self-defense, which you're allowed to do.
Right.
In that moment, when it's you or him, it's allowed to be his life that goes and not yours. And I want everyone to understand how rare this is. Part of the reason I wanted to have you on the show, Misty,
Why?
was because the story you're telling is one that I think happens more often than we think.
Right.
And we've got a huge problem. 90%, we believe, 90% of the women in prison for killing men were abused by those men.
So
you all hear that?
unfortunate.
90%, 9 out of 10 women in jail for killing a man were being abused by that man. Did you know that?
If it would have happened years before, I would probably would have went to prison.
Yeah, for a long, long time, even though you're defending yourself.
Even with all the bruises and cuts and scrapes.
And the history of it happening, right? Which doesn't seem to matter. Now, you acknowledge that people are calling you a murderer and that it hurts you. And I've heard you loud and clear. And I don't know about the audience. Are you with me on this? I believe you. And I don't want those folks having more influence on you than they ought to.
I can't help it.
It's hard.
I have to drive through the town. People look at me. People talk about me on Facebook. They say terrible things because of my ex-husband's got them all just believing I'm a bad person, and I'm not.
What other people say about you is none of your business at this point. They don't know. They're never going to know. It doesn't frankly matter. And if your ex-husband is saying that stuff, and I can't attest to that, that's unfortunate, but you've got to focus on you. And you know what I'm really proud of? I'm going to show the audience a photo of you when this crime happened, of him beating you, and then when you gained the 80 pounds. Do you all see this picture? That's a picture of a woman who's trying to hurt herself. What he couldn't do with you, your ex-boyfriend, you were doing to yourself.
Yeah.
So how did you figure that you could turn it around? What made you go from that to this?
Because I'm not that person. I care about myself and my family and my children, and I had to pick myself back up and feel good about myself. I just talked and prayed to my dad. I got into AA too, and that helped so much.
You got help. I'm gonna get you some more help. I'm gonna bring in psychologist Dr. Judith Joseph. Please join us. This is a traumatic incident. And I just wanna, this is Dr. Joseph.
Hi.
If you could help us understand, how common is it for someone who's been through something as traumatic as this and survived it to retreat and then self-medicate,
First
run
of all,
away?
thank you for sharing your story. I mean, that's extremely painful.
Thank you.
And people don't realize
No.
that domestic violence is a silent epidemic, and you broke your silence today.
Right.
And unfortunately, about half of people who survive trauma do self-medicate.
Yeah.
Listen, sometimes it's easier. Sometimes it's easier access to drugs and alcohol than to see a mental health expert. And also, it can be painful to talk about these things with someone who you've never met before.
Right.
So it's just easier. However, it does sometimes lead to addiction, and then you're in this vicious cycle of addiction,
Right.
depression, and anxiety.
Yep.
So I think that that's probably what happened here.
It did.
I think you understand that you're innocent deep in your heart.
Yeah, I
You
do.
get that, right?
I do.
How has surviving this ordeal allowed you to go on in ways we don't anticipate? How have you been able to get your life back? Because you obviously dealt with the addiction issues, you dealt with the food issues.
Yep.
You fixed the parts of your life that I can see from the outside. How has it fixed other parts of your life?
I'm starting to get my confidence back, but I know that these women that are going through this need to realize It's not their fault.
It's not. It was not your fault.
You have a wonderful smile. I wish you the best, and I'll pray for you.
Thank you.
It's estimated, I feel passionately about this, more than half of the women killed in the country die from violence related to a romantic partner. That's a crazy number. So I'm putting the number for the National Domestic Abuse Hotline at the bottom of this screen. Please call if you need help. Do not be embarrassed. Do not be shy. Be brave enough to make the call. There are people there who will help you. You should not have to suffer in silence. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on new videos to live the good life.